Here we go. All right, welcome back, everyone, to our next episode here. So you see, I'm here, Dan, AWL. Unfortunately, our leader, our main man, Wiz, is a little bit under the weather still battling back. So gonna run this episode without Wiz today, but in his place, we have a fantastic step in here, Brad Wire of the Undroppables. Brad, can you just tell people a little bit about yourself and why you are such a perfect person to have on this episode?
Yeah, so for myself, I mean, my role with Undroppables over the last couple of years has been kind of on the back end. I've kind of been taking a step back, figuring things out a little bit. But so before that, I did a lot of the offensive line rankings. Was pretty close to fighting with PFF there on the Google site, but I lost that battle a little bit.
Yeah,
But
they got the pay.
but yes, of course, I'm only one little small man in my mom's basement, basically. So, but I played about 13, 14 years of college, including high school and of offensive line football. So, I know just a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. So,
Yeah, and there it is, folks. So today we're talking all about the big boys, talking about the guys up front. The right, it's you had to have loved this quote from oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. You're gonna have to edit that out, Wiz. The Chargers.
Jim
Harbaugh. All right.
Harbaugh.
Yeah. All right. So Wiz, edit it. 3, 2, 1. And you must have loved this quote from Harbaugh, right? For like a week or two, or maybe a couple weeks ago, when he said, right, the only position group that doesn't rely on anyone else, right? The O line, they make the entire system work, offense, defense, everybody. So everything starts with the O line. And that's something that for a lot of years here in, Foxborough, we never had to worry about. Right. We
Yep.
obviously had Brady, who got it out super fast, but we had the best O line seemingly every year. And we had Scar, and life was glorious. But again, right, new regime, new era. So we no more Scar. And really, the state of this O line. I mean, last year you and I were just talking offline.
Yeah.
Um, Depending on where you want to look, the Patriots were ranked middle of the road in some areas, very much towards the bottom in others, but kind of right around 20th overall.
Yep.
Are you, I mean, I guess we'll get right into it in regards to our current players, Connor McDermott, Cole Strange, David Andrews, City So, Michael Wenyu. Are any of these guys, what are you kind of feeling about them, especially someone like Cole Strange or Wenyu? And just, Wenyu was our big guy, but Cole Strange, he was
Yeah.
not a popular pick when it was made, and he's
Sure.
been very up and down. What do you make of the Patriots O line in its current iteration?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say I'm stoked for Nwenny's contract extension. God, that
Me too.
was such a huge thing, and I'm so happy for him. Especially because they came out and said that they're going to stick him at right tackle. Just leave him at right tackle. Let him actually dig into the techniques and everything, and really have him hone in on that just right tackle position. Don't let him move around. I mean,
Yep.
it's and Dan, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but even just moving from right tackle to right guard is like moving from third base to second base. in
Yeah.
baseball. It's not. Is it terribly different? No, but there's little intricacies that you can
Mhm.
really hone in on if you are just sitting at that one position. You get really to work on your craft.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
that's a great way to say it. It's yeah, they're both on the infield, but they're very different techniques on the details and the
just
things
little
that
things.
matter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And the little things is what I've always preached on. That's going to make the biggest difference in just in anything really.
Mhm.
Is the little things. And then Cole Strange again. It's kind of little things. It's injuries here and there that have piled up. Hopefully we get a healthy 2024 out of him. But obviously his rookie campaign was pretty solid.
Mhm.
Um, and now that he's had a little time in the NFL to level out a little bit, and I'm hoping City Sow, however you want to pronounce, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation on that one, even it's the shortest name
Believe
of
it's
all
City
time. But
style, yeah.
okay, so but and I do like the signing of Nick Leverett. I
Mhm.
think those two will kind of push each other, and hopefully we'll get a winner up by the training camp. But
Yeah.
and hopefully it'll be sound because I like Leverett as a solid, very solid backup. He
Mhm.
had time where he started in the playoffs with Tampa Bay, and he played pretty well. So he definitely provides a little bit of that playoff presence that maybe New England needs a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
Another one of the signings in the offseason was Chukwuma Okorafor.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Chucks is going to be your swing right tackle, left tackle there on the backup because I'm definitely not looking forward to Connor McDermott being the starting left tackle come day one.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on
Yeah.
that. I think the entirety of New England is with you on that.
Yeah. I think we've watched enough of him over the years to say that he is definitely not your day one starter here, left tackle. And
Yeah,
then
and definitely not, Verdarian Lowe as well. That, he's not a fan favorite.
I'm not even sure if that's a real name there. Uh,
Yeah.
um,
Trust me.
you got farther than I did though, so I can't really be one to
Yeah,
nitpick.
fair point.
So, and then obviously you got the one in the middle holding it down, David Andrews. He's been there for so long. He's so good. Um, People talk a lot about Jason Kelsey being as good as he is, and David Andrews has been right there. Him and Frank Ragnow really kind of like the top 3-4 guys in the league. And we'll see if David Andrews makes that next step to being that number one guy. He's definitely in the running for it. Him,
Yeah.
Creed, and Frank Ragnow for sure. But obviously he's getting up there a little in age. He's about 32, 33.
Mhm.
And so we're going to look to a little bit of maybe his replacement coming a couple years from now. So,
Yeah.
um, uh,
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of where I look at it too, is you see a lot of these guys where, yeah, I agree. On when you and just sticking at right tackle is huge, I think, for him and the stability of the O line. We still, yeah, like we still need more growth out of Strange. Andrews, health a little bit, like you said,
yeah,
32 years old. He's been in the league for a while. So it feels like I in my mind he's still like 26, 27, and
yes,
I
yes,
need to come to grips with that. But there still feels like there's a lot of holes, and that's where I'm kind of curious with the new scheme with Van Pelt, and they brought Scott Peters, the O line coach from Cleveland, came
yep,
along with them. Um, Within their current, again, their current form, you know, does it seem more of a, is it a zone? Is it a run gap? Like, do they feel like the guys that we have now, do you think that they're in a good position to succeed with this new offensive system, or is there still going to be some growing pains and they really need to work on their cohesiveness with
yeah.
these new schemes?
There's always growing pains. I remember getting my ass kicked by the defense in the first couple weeks of training camp because it just takes time to gel. First of all,
Mhm.
and the health has been a big part of that. But as they adjust to that new scheme, it's not going to be a totally new scheme. Obviously, a lot of teams run some variation of zone and gap these
Yep.
days, so there's not going to be a ton of variations. But new calls, new verbiage sometimes gets brought in with those new coaches, and it takes just some time to get used to. So I'm sure a few weeks is going to be pretty hard negative against the New England offensive line there. So we'll have to see how that comes out training camp. But I don't think it'll be too difficult for them to learn. Obviously, they've had for the most part 3 out of the 5 guys
Mhm.
are pretty much established veterans in the league. So Cole Strange is what is his third or fourth year now. It's the
Yep.
fourth year, I think. So um, so he's dipped his toes in the water. He's probably knee deep right now, so you can start to get your feet under you a little bit and really sink into those things. So I'm looking forward to them actually improving greatly on what they did last year.
Yeah, and I feel like if Strange really takes that next step, um, he feels like a guy that's like your favorite offensive lineman,
Hmm.
right? Strange,
Yeah,
69 on the back. He's got
yeah,
the one bar. Like
yeah.
he feels like a throwback type of guy.
He's a guy you want to have a beer with.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure, for
So
sure. And
yeah,
hey, that's what you want out of your O line. Right? You want the guys, you want the
yeah.
big boys that can eat, drink, and push other big men around.
Yes, and his body type and the way he plays, I think will fit the zone scheme well. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is good to hear because that is something that we definitely need. Now, I guess when we want to transfer, and what I think a lot of myself, Wiz, and a lot of Patriots fans, as much as we need the quarterback, we need the wide receiver or two or three.
Yeah,
We
lots.
really need offensive line starters, but at minimum, we need depth. We saw between injuries last year and just frankly guys not playing super well. Um, it was bad. It was
Yeah,
bad. So when we
yeah,
start to look at some of these top um, prospects, obviously someone like Joe Alt, I think we all know, right? He's a stud. Um,
yep,
there's not too much to say about him other than he's really, really good.
yeah.
But where do you think maybe the next two might fit in regards to is it Fashanu and Fatanu?
Yeah, that's for me because I'm so for the Patriots with Nwenu locked in at right tackle. There is what I'm
Mhm.
hoping.
Yeah,
Um, I'm looking at Joe Alt for sure. I'm looking at Fashanu and Fatanu out of Washington there. So Fashanu out of Penn State.
hmm
Um, and obviously, so if the plan for the Patriots is to stick at number 3 and they see Joe Alt as some sort of generational talent, which I don't think he's too far off of that. I don't think he's quite there. I think he's so solid. He's probably one of the safest picks in this draft.
hmm
Just to be a guy.
yeah,
That you stick in and you don't have to worry about. You don't have to do nothing. He's ready to go.
hmm
Which now, if I'm the Patriots, am I ready to go this year, or am I just going to take the year, see what we got, and take maybe a project in Fashano, trade down a little bit, but it just depends on what happens at 3, right?
yeah,
It seems like a lot of the mocks these days have the Patriots sticking at 3,
mhm,
which for me, I don't know if it could be them just building hype for a QB. You could see 6 trade up to 3. You could see um, I would like to see Chicago trade up to 3 to take a Marv or Neighbors, whoever they like,
yeah,
because I think that'd be just wild. Take a page out of the Houston, Texas playbook from last year,
yeah.
and just go all in.
So
Give
and I guess to that point then, right? If we because I think right, for me, I if the Patriots left round one with Joe Alt,
Yep.
I wouldn't be angry, right? He's like you
No,
said, he's a
right.
stud. He's amazing. I would be angry if we took him at 3 just because I do think we can move down.
Right.
Um, but between, maybe a trade with the Giants or like you said, Chicago at 9, Minnesota at 11,
Yep.
do you see I don't think Alt will fall that far, but where do you see maybe, how far could we drop down if we drop down to get a Fashanu or Furtado? Where do you think that range might be? And I know
Yeah.
it's a massive guessing game,
Yeah.
but where do you think?
So for me right now, I was looking at some mocks and some things. Damian Parson over the Draft Network, he does great work.
Yep.
I saw he had a 4-round mock draft where the Patriots traded down to 11 with Minnesota, like you mentioned,
Mhm.
and took Olu Fashanu at 11 there, and Alt went to the Titans at 7.
Yep.
So I think Alt, if you trade down to 6, there's your spot.
Mhm.
6 to 8 range for Alt there, and it depends on where you're looking. I mean, if I see Fashanu 8 to 15 range. I see Fatanu. His range is a lot wider because of the question marks that he has about size and playing at left tackle in the league.
Yep.
So for him, I've seen him go like 11 to all the way up to 25.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Yeah, his range of outcomes is very, very wide. But
Mhm.
now I see him more in like the 15 to 17 type
Yep.
deal. So if you trade back to 11 and you're like, well, Fashanu and Fatano are both on there, let's see if we can trade down again, maybe collect some extra draft capital. Now, do they trade back twice? Probably not, but
Yep.
um, who knows? Maybe they just trade back to 15 once and pick up a first round pick, because that'd be something that's really hot. But uh, I don't see a train trading that far up in the draft. So
No, I agree with you. So I guess if you want to get into a little bit of nitty gritty, if you will, what do you see out of Fashanu that you really like, or if there's any concerns? I know, looking at his RAS card, I mean, a 9.58 is elite, and then Furtado even a 9.62. Both of these guys are extremely strong athletes. What do
yeah,
you see out of their play specifically that might be something that if the Patriots end up getting them,
yeah.
why should we be happy?
So we'll stick to Olumuyue. I don't think I pronounced that right, but
I'll
for
give you
sure.
credit.
Um, Um, so he is the one that I think you trade back to that 9-11 range, and that's
Mhm.
where he's going to be there. To me, his RAS comps are Joe Thomas, DeBerkshire Ferguson, so you can kind of see
Those
what
are good
lane
games.
he's picking in. There's another site that I like to look at called Mock Draftable.
Mhm.
It also does kind of the same thing that Raz does, and his comps for there were Christian Darrisaw, the Minnesota Vikings, and Roger Saffold, who had a pretty strong career at left tackle and eventually
Yeah.
moved in to guard for the Titans in the last couple of years. But just getting into some of the film for him,
Mhm.
he's at a quick set, but he's patient. Mirrors defenders well. He uses his good independent hands, and the reason that I talk about independent hands, and a lot of the all offensive linemen, people that you see talking about offensive line talk about independent hands is you use both. You get a tendency to get over yourself, get over your knees,
Okay.
and with the one you might punch, and you can be able to sit back and guide, and then steer uh,
Mhm.
defenders. So um, that's really the reason why you talk about independent hands. Want to be able to use that. It's kind of a hard habit to break using both, but Fashanu does really well with that.
Mhm.
Um, he does get in trouble when a defender gets on him quicker because he is so patient. He might not be able to lock out as much, but he typically has expected really excellent timing when engaging. But he's content with being patient. He's content with sitting back, letting things
Mhm.
come to him. He might not be as much of a punch shock guy, but he's a catcher, and he's got such a good anchor. Uh,
Yeah.
you see him stand up guys time and time again on film. So um, one of the things that I wonder if he'll rely on too much is that size and being patient. You kind of you do the same sets over and over and over again, and you're gonna get beat in the NFL with not mixing things up. So that's what. But one thing that he is doing this offseason, especially that I like to see, is he's training with one of the top offensive line trainers,
Mhm.
coaches, whatever you want to give them, and Duke Manyweather. And he's
Okay.
he's out his training facility right now, I believe. If not at home, but he at least spent some time there learning, working on those types of things. That's what Duke specializes in, is getting these guys NFL ready.
That's
Um,
great.
yes. So there's a couple other guys maybe that we'll talk about here in a couple minutes that are also training with Duke, and that's
Yep.
just a big thing that I like to pay attention to. And then as far as like the run game, I mean, his defender he just does not stop. His feet does not stop. He's got such a high motor. That's one thing that I look at, high effort guys that
Mhm.
are always going to be moving. You start taking plays off, you start getting low effort. To me, that's when you get hurt a lot more.
Yep.
Get clipped, and you never know who's going to roll up on you at that point. Um, but he's got elite grip strength, man. As soon as he gets on you with those paws, I mean, you're not getting off. That is one of the things that I love to see is you lock on a guy, run your feet, you get him in the ground. Um, everybody loves those pancakes, man.
That's right. And that's actually the independent enhancing you talked about.
Yeah,
Um, It reminded me actually, like the tweet I showed you of Baldy breaking
Yep.
down
Yep. Yep.
Fatanu. He actually highlighted that exact same thing where you
Yep.
saw, I think it was the left hand he punched and then
Yep.
he locked on and the guy was
Yeah.
just like, nope, you're not
Yeah.
going anywhere.
Yep. Yeah. No, and we'll get to him in a second for sure. Finish up with Fashanu here. Um, um, some of the things that he needs to clean up, and I'm hoping that he works with him with Duke is landmarks, some footwork things.
Mhm.
Obviously switching up his sets. Really small things again, but we talked about the small things earlier today.
Yep.
Need to really refine those things, and that is it's just all he really needs. He's got a good frame, he's got good arm length, he's got good anchor, he's got good power, he knows how to use independent hands, but it's just those little things that's going to really elevate him to the next level. He's only 21 years old. So he's got a lot of potential. That's why I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but he's a guy that I think if you're like, I want to take a chance on him, I think he
Mhm.
can be one of the top 3 NFL offensive tackles in the next 3 to 5 years. Where that's when the Patriots can really start pushing things back again.
Mhm.
Versus Alt, he's ready right now.
Yep.
Not to say that Olu wouldn't start day one, but really coming into groove and getting everything refined, maybe 2-3 years on a very very high level.
I like that. Listen, I mean, everything that we're at right now is just trying to rebuild the entire organization. So yeah, someone like Alt starting day one at the elite level, fantastic. But we're also not at the ready to compete day one
Exactly.
as much as I would like to be.
Yeah. Yep.
It is a process.
Now that you guys have lived in that for 30 years, you guys can step out of the
Yeah.
realm for a little bit.
Again, I'm very aware of the fact that I really can't complain. I
Yeah.
want to, but I know I can't.
Yeah, especially after your world famous tweet and shout out for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was a good time. That was a lot. I've once I noted them all out and I realized my teams have won a championship almost every year of my life. I was like, okay, this is a lot.
Yeah, yeah, that's all right. At least you're one of the humble ones, so I don't mind coming
I
on the
try.
show for sure. um, but back to the big boys who we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So Fashanu, one of the things that I mentioned, he's still a little bit raw. He's only had 21 starts.
Okay. Oh
Um,
wow.
you get to Fatanu. He's had 31 starts, 29 of them at left tackle. So a lot of
Yeah.
people say that he want to move in to guard, but I think he's in the mold of Rashawn Slater from a couple years ago.
Okay.
He's got 34.5-inch arms. He doesn't that's not a shortcoming for that for sure.
Hmm.
Obviously you want him as long as you want, but Fashanu is only 34. So
Yep.
he's definitely got the arm length for to play NFL left tackle.
Yep.
And he's got the movement to do it too. He's so quick, good with his feet. He gets to his spot quick, good vertical setter. He stays in tandem with the guard on twists and stunts.
Okay.
Um, and just like I said, he's hyper athletic, good in space. I'm just going through some of my show notes here. They're probably way out of order, so I'm going to be bouncing a little bit off the track here. But um, you just won't see as many good offensive linemen as him in space.
Hmm.
Um, like Sewell was really good in space when he was coming out of Oregon. I think Fatanu might be better.
Wow.
Um, he's so good at locking onto defenders and making sure that he just gets in front of them. You don't need to do too much, especially at the NFL level, with those backs as good as they are.
Yep.
Um, just get a hand on, misdirect a little bit, but he's always there. He's always moving, always in the way, getting on defenders. Um, and this is one where you start to see he's had 29 starts left tackle, but you can really see that he focuses on his craft. He studies his craft. Just looks at the little things. You can see him mix up his sets. You can see him use independent hands. Just like you talked about with that video breakdown of Baldy. I've seen him on film use a slingshot technique, which most people might not know that term, but he got beat on a pass rush to the inside, I believe it was, and a lot of people might call this holding. You want to talk about holding, but there's really not pass interference for offensive line. That's basically what it is.
Mhm.
From a cornerback perspective, it's essentially like pass interference, but
Yeah.
rush interference, I guess you could call it. So you just reach your hand around the defender, swipe his breastplate to get him off balance just a little bit, to get by the quarterback just enough time to
Mhm.
escape. Now that's where he had Penix as his QB, athletic enough to get out of the pocket. So
Yep.
obviously Mac Jones probably ain't doing too much of that, but
Nope. But Jaden Daniels or Drake May could.
yes, exactly. So, but again, probably not ended up with one of those two if you're traded down at this point. So,
Very true.
um,
Very true.
but maybe one of the quarterbacks next year. I
Yep.
watched a little bit of the. You're gonna have to remind. Dylan Gabriel, is that who is the quarterback for Oklahoma that's transferred to
Oh,
Oregon?
I believe so.
We're gonna have to cut this a little bit here because I forgot the quarterback's name. But
Yeah,
um,
Dylan Gabriel. No, you're right.
okay, all right. So, um, 3, 2, 1. As you next, you look into next year, possibly with Dylan Gabriel coming in, looking like a good early first round pick next year.
Mhm.
Um, Setting him up, that'd be something that I could see for sure. Um, so who knows? Who knows at this point? I'd like to see them trade down and take one of those two at least, though,
But it
because
looks like so I would say at least for you and it's kind of the feeling I get is if we end up moving down, which is possible.
yeah,
I mean, I know it's a Bill Belichick hallmark, but it feels like it's very possible in general. If we end up with at least one of those three, but at least one of those two that for Sean or Futanu,
hmm
Patriot fans should not be mad at the level of player that we just got.
no, and I think you should be um, maybe just a little bit above content.
Yep.
Um, I like I don't I obviously it's not a quarterback, so
Yes.
it's
Yep.
not exciting.
Yep.
Obviously it's not a wide receiver, so it's not exciting. But yeah, I'd be a level above content. I'm not going to come on here and say like offensive linemen are the absolute shit of the league and they should be drafted number one overall. But yeah, no, I think these two players are some that you can get behind and actually
Okay.
buy in on. Fashanu Fatanu. Um,
Yeah,
it's
no,
they
I mean
just
that's great, and
yeah,
that's it's all part of trying to also like just reset, even like I said, like our mindset of building back the organization. When you look back throughout the 20 years, the 20-year run, I mean, we had absolute dudes on the offensive line.
yeah,
So getting those guys back, it is how you build the team, and you see
yep,
all of the best teams in the league all have those stud O lines.
yep,
Um, so yeah, it is huge. I would say, out of curiosity, right? So those are the two, you know, 2, 3 really high end guys. Maybe a little bit later in the draft, if you look at
yep,
someone like Jordan Morgan, Walter Rouse, or even I think some of the tackles, Rosengarten, Blake Fisher, who I think I
yep,
know you could talk about, Matt Goncalves. Do you see any of these guys maybe later on, rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it may be? Do any of those guys jump off the page or anything where you're like, oh, that's a nice skit in round 3 or round 4 or something like that?
yeah. So a couple of the guys you mentioned there, I'll touch on a little bit here. So Blake Fisher is one that I looked at a little bit of.
Mhm.
He actually is the first ever freshman at Notre Dame to start at left tackle in their first game. True freshman.
That's
So and that's he had the same time at Joe Alt, so
yep.
same exact time. That's unprecedented.
Yeah,
Now
that's
he ended up getting hurt and then he moved over to the right tackle side, so that's where he stayed ever since Joe Alt overtook that spot.
mhm.
And but I don't necessarily fault him for that. You take what you can get,
Yep.
and but the other thing with him, I just on film it doesn't look like he moves as well
Mhm.
as I think an NFL lineman needs to,
Okay.
um, especially in this league, the state of the league as it is right now. I just don't think that he has what I would be wanting.
Okay.
Now, can he have a good career? Sure,
Yep.
but some of the things that I saw from him are just hip waist bender. and things like that. I'm sure he can work on that. I think he's working with Duke Manyweather as well, so I'm sure he's going to get a little bit better. So from what to put in perspective how much I trust Duke, essentially take whatever your draft profile is of a player, and you can throw it out the window if they're training with Duke Manyweather.
Because it's just that much. It's going to get that much better.
You just know that he's going to work on the little things to correct a lot of that stuff. So,
yeah.
Would I be upset if the Patriots took Blake Fisher? Now you talk about Jordan Morgan as well. Those are the couple of players that I think they're going to have to take probably early round 2.
Okay.
With that early round 2 pick, because that's where I think a lot of those will slot in. Maybe not Blake Fisher's just that high, but I think that's where I've seen him slot in a little bit. So now Jordan Morgan, the guy that I actually did a little bit of research on, some people again say he's might be a little bit better at guard because he's got a little bit shorter arms. They're under 33 inches. You want to hear me nitpick about offensive lineman's arm length. But he,
no,
I mean,
that's what's interesting. I mean,
yeah. It matters to some people, I guess. So, so here we are. But honestly, on film, I don't really see a ton of that. A ton of the short arm coming up. Again, he moves pretty well. I would have liked to see him test the 3-cone and the shuttle, the 5-10-5 shuttle, but he didn't test that because he had an ACL tear in November 2022, and I don't blame him for not testing that stuff. I tore my ACL, a few other things, ripped my hamstring off the bone, but I don't blame him for not testing that, just in general. But I mean, honestly, the way that he plays, you can tell that he can move and be good in space. He's going to fit in that zone scheme a lot more, which is the new system that's being brought in a little bit, at least leaning more that way. His feet are quick when they're in motion. I do see them a little stagnant more than I would like, but again, that's me being a little nitpicky. It's not always a bad thing, but it seems like his base is too wide when that happens, and that's where he's going to get in trouble. Like base wide, feet stuck. That's really when you can get off balance. So I think that's something that he needs to work on a little bit. He does not do good with hezzy moves by defenders because of that wide base. You can get it caught off guard a little bit. That's where he's going to get really caught. So he has decent punch power when it lands, but what I see from him, his hands start up high, and then they cock. So it's wasted motion, and that throws off his timing a little bit. The good thing, though, is he always is aware of twists and stunts. So he's looking inside. He's got his eyes inside to be able to at least help that. Obviously, the inside is always the most dangerous for defenders to get through. So I think if he works on his base, it'll help with a lot of the handling of his power rushers too. But he transitions to running defenders around the edge very well. So I think he can be a very solid prospect. He's shown the use of independent hands, which I like as well. But he's got a tendency to be a little bit wide, like a bear hug type technique. And again, this is why he's being brought down to that early round 2. He's gotten some hype to go late round 1. I don't know if he gets up there. So maybe if the Patriots take a quarterback at 3 and then end up trading up a little bit in the end of round 1, so you can have that 5th-year option on the player. I think that might be something that they do for this type of offensive tackle. And the reason why you don't see a lot of his arm length show on film is because his frame is big. He's got a huge frame, and that's again part of the reason why the arms end up going a little wide. So, but it doesn't show on film as much as you might think. Let's see here. There was one play. See if I can get this to load here quick. One of the prospects, one of the top defense for end prospects from UCLA, Latu. Hopefully Tommy Moe doesn't butcher me for mispronouncing that, but very, very solid rep. He had a very solid game against UCLA. Jordan Morgan did, and just runs him around the edge, pancakes him. Solid rep. I think he can do a lot of that in the NFL.
Mhm.
and especially against one of the top defense end prospects that's coming out, you know he's at least capable of doing those things, which
Yeah.
is nice to see. Now, uh, this one would I'd be content with them taking.
Okay.
I wouldn't like them to see the trade up, but again, if the fifth year option makes sense for them, that's where I could see that making sense.
Yeah.
And then I guess really, so like the next player that I really that looked into, you mentioned Walter Rouse. Walter Rouse, you want to talk about a veteran presence? Holy cow! I try to look up players' ages. I can't
Yeah.
find his age. But and the reason that I was looking for is because he started 52 games in college at left tackle.
Wow.
52 games.
That's wild.
That's a
That's a
lot of
lot.
games. That's almost 3 full NFL seasons. Um, that is that's over 3 full NFL. That's 3 full 17 game NFL seasons plus a playoff game.
Yeesh.
So you want to talk about a guy that I think can actually step in day one and be pretty solid. That's
Mhm.
Walter Rouse. A lot of people last year were calling the offensive tackles for Oklahoma the best tandem tackles in the college ball system,
Yeah.
with Tyler Guyton.
Okay.
And I don't think Walter Rouse is getting a lot of the attention that he deserves, uh, being that solid anchor at left tackle there. I think he's being overshadowed a little bit. One of the things that I've noticed though on his RAS score, he shuttle and three cone are not where you'd like them to be.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't maybe not moves quite as well, but I don't think that shows up on film either. So, and a couple of the reasons that drew me to Walter Rouse just off the bat, I just do a little RAS score research and a few of the athletic testing research just to see if they can move well. His RAS comps, top one, Olufashano. So if you want to discount Olufashano, I guess this is your guy. But he's obviously a lot more veteran presence
Mhm.
and played a lot more snaps than Fashanu. Dan Moore Jr. The other one is that is the Steelers tackle right now.
Okay.
Again, going back to the mock draftable, that's where we see someone that's really promising, Larry Tunsil, Texans, and someone that was in the headlines quite a bit last year for the NFL, Jawan Taylor. So you got
Yeah.
a little bit of both ends of the spectrum there for sure,
Yep.
but at least you can say that those guys are NFL starting caliber players. Jawan Taylor is still in the NFL, still starting games, still playing meaningful snaps. So it's still holding it down. I mean, it's not like he's getting flagged every play. So he's
Mhm.
obviously doing something right. Um,
Yeah.
but getting into Walter Rouse and what I saw on film, and in this guy, he'd be slotted right around 5'6" range. So later into the draft, so
Okay.
someone that you might end up looking at as a depth piece,
Mhm.
but might end up working out better than some guys in the 2 to 3 4 range. Um, so from the first look when he was at Stanford, he started at Stanford, did a transfer to Oklahoma this past year. Um, at Stanford, he was a hip bender, lunges on his punches. It helps with power, but those big whiffs when he misses. So you can see those little things there. Tend to goes wide with his hands, which also attributes to those misses. Um, Obviously, he's got to be solid in the run game coming from Stanford. Ground and pound.
Yep.
You see that cloud of dust football they're running up there, but it looks. I mean, from the last year that I saw, they tending to wait a little bit from that. So it was good to see him transition to Oklahoma because
Mhm.
you saw um, a lot of that shotgun,
Mhm.
hurry up, spread offense, running out of the gun. So you can see a lot of that differentials, which was really nice to see. He knows how to get defenders on the ground, which is nice. In the run game, there he's patient. When he has a good anchor, even with his slightly lesser frame. So he's one of the smaller offensive linemen. You can see that on film too.
Mhm.
Um, Not as big as some of these top guys in the draft, but um, uh, he's really just solid in the pass protection game. He's like you don't
Mhm.
have to worry about him. He's just one. He's really good with his mirroring, his patience in his sets. Much better about lunging in the 2023 film with Oklahoma. So it was good to see that improvement. Um, Hands just still get a little wide though, but he does use the independent hands a lot better. I like to see that. Very consistent on his vertical sets. You can see that he is he works on his craft. He's trained. One of the things that one of my coaches always talked about is Larry Allen.
Okay.
He played in the Cowboys with Larry Allen, and Larry Allen would just take little baby steps. He's walking through each play, and you can tell that Walter Rouse does a lot of those little bit of the same things because everything's just so consistent. You're gonna be consistent with everything you're doing. Just lets the game slow down. You can process things a lot better. When you don't have to worry about those things, you just don't have to think. Um, uh, Sticks with defenders all the way around the circle. Great running that edge. Great grip strength when he does lock on. He's not much of a people mover because of his lesser frame in the run game, but he understands angles well enough,
Okay.
and his feet are always moving. So he's always going to be on the run. He's always that one of those high effort guys,
Yep.
which again is what I like to see. He's another one that's going to be able to come down into guard. Maybe not be as viable, but 313, 6'5". So he's got some size. His arm length is over 35 inches, uh, which is well on point to being even just a left tackle. So, um,
Yeah.
but like Fatano, he's a real veteran. You can tell he studies the game constantly. Always trying to get better. His most notable play, something that you might have seen on Twitter back in the college season. He blocked two defenders on a game-winning touchdown versus Texas. Just great
Yeah.
awareness to allow
Yep.
that game-winning touchdown to happen. So I really think that he can step in day one and be a solid at the very least. You talk about gap quarterbacks,
Mhm.
bridge quarterbacks. At the very least, I think he can be a bridge left tackle.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, and that's someone like you said, right? If he's going to be maybe more in that fifth round type range, that could actually work great because, yeah, I think ideally we take that quarterback 3,
Hmm.
maybe at 34, maybe Lad McConkey's there, right? Someone there, and then you kind of get those two real big splash position players.
Hmm.
But now, and like we talked about in a previous episode, we have some defensive needs as well,
You're
where
right.
now you can start to really build out the rest of the team. And someone like Rouse is, a fifth round pick, but he might really be a third round type talent.
Yep.
But some of the other things drop him down. So that could be a huge steal. You sold me on him. I'm ready for my Rouse in Foxborough.
Good.
Um, Now from there, I think when we shift to like the inner O line, um, yeah, we could definitely use some depth at guard. But I think the person that we both really want to talk about is David Andrews. But really, then more importantly, what is our plan beyond David Andrews?
Right.
So right now, Jake Andrews is the backup who, nah. Um, is there someone in this draft that you kind of have your eye on that, Patriots fans could be like, ooh, this is a guy that'd be a really good get because in a year, 2 years, I mean, David Andrews was kind of already talking about
Yep.
retirement, that he's kind of like the next guy.
Right. Yeah, I think David Andrews 2 to 3 years. Jason Kelsey's what 35.
Yep.
Just retired. Obviously, David Andrews about 32, 33. So I'm thinking 2 3 years. Hopefully he can go longer, but obviously, I know um, just as much as anyone, your body breaks down. Your body tells you when you're done.
It's
So
it's crazy to me how long offensive linemen play.
yeah,
It,
yeah.
I
I
mean,
was
God
thinking
bless
about
them.
that. I was thinking about that when Kelsey retired, and being an Eagles fan, that one took me a little bit to process for sure. Um, but he played my career twice.
Yep.
Like I played 13 years, and he basically essentially played my career twice. Like I could not imagine that on my body. My head coach, when I was done playing college football, my super senior, I played 5 years in college.
Yep.
Um, Finished my fifth year. My head coach came up to me and it was like, "Have you ever thought about playing arena ball?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not. I am done." I I've had it. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good to walk away.
Yeah.
So,
I've had my fun.
yeah. So you just you never know when that's going to happen. I mean, what was
Yeah.
it 2-3 years ago? Someone retired at halftime of an NFL game. So,
Yeah.
like,
One of the best stories.
yeah, I love that. Anytime I can bring that up, I try to.
It's like, yeah,
Um,
I'm all set.
but so bringing it back to here, what we're talking about, the guy that we're going to talk about here a little bit is a guy that actually broke one of Jason Kelsey's combine records in the 3-cone, Tanner Bortolini.
Mhm.
You want to talk about a guy that the Patriots can really fall in love with because of his position versatility, being moved around as a chess piece all over the place. He had 28 starts, maybe give or take one or two from what I could find, but 14 of those came at guard earlier in his career, 13 at center really this last year in 2023. And then there was one start that I did find where he started at tight end. So
Nice.
there you go.
Let's
You
go.
want to find someone that can move all over the place. You got him.
He's catching
Um,
touchdowns.
exactly. You can tell. That's one thing that Wisconsin did draw up a little bit of is those offensive line touchdowns. That's why
Yeah.
that's home for me. Um, but so from what I've seen on film for him, I do think that he's very good with his backside patience guard on double teams. So that's really going to come into play with that zone concept. Eyes are always on backers. You can tell his eyes are always where they need to be. It hurts him a little bit when they go backside
Mhm.
on those like basically just you know what I'm talking about. But on the
Yeah.
backside of double teams, the linebacker scrapes over,
Yeah.
and you can hurt him a little bit sometimes because he gets maybe a little too far out in front of
Mhm.
that double team. So turning back is sometimes a little bit of a pain, but he's pretty good at walling those guys off anyway. So um, one thing that I would like to see is lock on to second level defenders more. It seems like he does the initial shock and lets go, but he works his lane so well and knows when to get up to the second level. So I think he really is a veteran presence in that aspect of the game. I just want to see him lock on and drive. I've seen him do it. I just want him to be a little more consistent with it. So um, he does not let go. So like I said, he stays in the chest, keeps driving, his feet always keep moving. And those guys do get on the ground because eventually they'll lose their balance and you get to have a fun ride with some syrup. Now, as far as the pass protection game, bit of a lunger in pass pro leads to swims with his shorter arms. His arm length is only 31 and a half. So
Okay.
that's one thing that I'd be looking at the NFL level is maybe just like myself, my arms are short. So that's why
Mhm.
one of the reasons I called it done as well. I got short arms. You want to talk about Burger King and the tiny hands? I got tiny arms. Which is a problem for
Yeah.
going into that next level. So just one thing to look at. So his smaller frame doesn't do as well with the push pull by defenders, especially those larger D tackles. You can get tossed fairly easily, but he's always fighting.
Mhm.
Always feet driving. Hands are always fighting. He can recover really quick when he's beat though too, because of his elite athleticism. Um, Jason Kelsey always got touted for his elite athleticism, and Bortolini is right up there with him. So you can tell that he's doing the right things. He handles a lot of stunts well due to that polished vision, but the processing is not quite where it needs to be, which is I think why he's going to be a good uh, spot to learn from Andrews for a couple of years, those 2-3 years. Maybe get a little spot starts at guard when they need him, but really just being able to learn and soak up David Andrews uh, for the time that he's got him should be one thing that Patriots fans would be excited for. Um, Keeping going here, he does have a good anchor for a small frame on bull rushes. So as long as he doesn't get push pulled,
Sorry.
You're good.
Wife came down.
You're good. I know it's hella late for you guys there, so I get it.
No, it's all good. I did cut you off though. I apologize.
No, you're good. We'll get back into it.
Okay.
I know where I stopped, so you're good.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. One thing that I do think that he does have very word vomit. All right, let's try that over again. Sorry, Dan. Other Dan,
No.
Dan squared.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1. One thing that I think he does have a really good spot in is his good anchor. He's got a good anchor for a small frame. He absorbs blitzing linebackers very well. He does not punish them, but he at least absorbs them. Doesn't let them by. You can tell he's got, again, he just knows where they're going to move, and he can move in it and mirror very well in that short amount of space. It will take some time to adjust the NFL level with his strengths. But again, that's why I think he'd be good sitting for a couple of years. But he can get by with his technical skills and knowledge of the game. Like I said, 28 starts, almost 30 starts. That's pretty solid for an NFL prospect. And he can play anywhere on the interior. So again, I think Patriots fans, especially from the last couple of years, know how much versatility comes into play. Can really appreciate Bornlini's game.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I mean, he's someone that, I've seen his name floated around here and there in a lot of different areas. So I'm sure we're not, the only fan base that is excited about his potential, addition. But he's someone that, I think where I see somewhere maybe in like the 4th round.
Yeah, I think 3, 4. He's getting steamed up a little bit, so I could see him end of 3, early 4 range.
Yep. So that'd be someone that I would feel very excited about him. And like, I admit, right, I'm not a huge O-line, scouter by any means, but he's someone that I've seen enough written about him. I've seen some of the clips that he seems like a very exciting prospect. And, like you said, being able to come in here and then potentially sit behind someone like David Andrews and learn the position, grow, get a little bit stronger. I know, he's not going to get any longer arms, but learning some of those intricacies again, I think would be huge. So he's someone that I would be very happy with for sure.
Yeah. I can't put them on the stretch board anymore for sure.
No, that's frowned upon, I think. That's great, man. Is there anyone else that you wanted to talk about, or anything offensive line related that that you see, whether it's the Patriots or maybe trends throughout the NFL? I don't know if there's anything else that you had in mind.
Honestly, not really.
Okay. All right, then we can cut that part.
Yeah, we can cut this part. But being out of it for so long, it's just like I have not really done a ton, which has been sad. But hopefully, after the move settles down, I'll be able to get into this more. I want to get back into things for sure, like Beezy's done, and this is really, like I said, it's like something that we can talk about at the end. Is like this, like I said, when you guys first invited me, was needed something kick in the pants to get going again. So just wanted to thank you for reaching out.
Oh,
I know
you're the first person that I thought of.
I know we've partnered on a few things in the past, so I appreciate it.
No, that's great. So yeah, I'll all right, then I'll throw it back to you.
Okay.
And yeah, do that. All right. So
All right.
All right. All right. So we just ended Portolini. I just said my piece. All right. So 3, 2, 1. Awesome, man. Well, that's fantastic stuff. So everything you did, thank you so much. Thank you for, being here and imparting your wisdom. I loved having you on, man.
I appreciate you having me. I was just talking again before we started hopping on here, but I being away for so long has been a struggle for me. Going through some things, really struggling to see if I wanted to keep doing this, first of all. So when you guys reached out to me, and I've seen Beezy come back, I've seen a few other people come back with the undroppables that were OGs a couple of years ago. OGs, offensive guards, we're talking about that, right? So seeing those guys come back has really been a nice a welcome. And I figured I needed some sort of kick in the pants. You guys reaching out to me was really what I what I needed. So I appreciate you guys reaching out. I miss Dan Squared coming on, but I am hoping that we can do this once again, maybe before the season starts.
Yes, for sure.
If I didn't do too horribly and I don't get too roasted too much, so we'll see how
No,
things pan out.
no, you did great. And yeah, after we see the O line hopefully gets a little bit more set from the draft and then throughout preseason, when we start to do our preseason look aheads, definitely would love to have you back on and get your thoughts on what are you seeing and should we be nervous or excited, because some of the position groups I'm still pretty nervous about, but I'm hoping O line is at least low level concern,
Yes,
not the
yes,
high level.
solid. I don't think we're going to get back up to the top 5, top 8 range quite yet,
Yeah.
but hoping to see top 15, top 12 to start the season at least. That'd be really nice. That's where I'd like to see them, and that way you can take small baby steps forward, doing the little things right, climbing back up to the top 10 again. That'd be really nice to see.
Yes, it would. All right, man. Well, thank you so much, Brad. Really loved having you on. And yeah, we'll talk again soon.
Awesome.
Peace. And end.